Hello and welcome to another conversation with me, Kushan Mitra. Today I have with me Ajay Awtaney, business travel and aviation journalist. And Ajay and I have been discussing through the lockdown several things, and Ajay has been, of course, blogging and writing on his site, livefromalounge.com. And I have a very simple question for him to start off. Ajay, when can I fly abroad again on vacation? I'm desperate to get out of the country. When?
Hey, Krishan, good to speak with you again, man. When can you fly abroad on vacation? I think that's going to be a while away unless you're going to get vaccinated soon. The two parts to this question, and let's go over how there's one part of the question which is how India is behaving, and there's another part of this question about how the world looks at us. So, with respect to India, India is not given, as you would have yourself been seeing, the government of India is not given us a timeline at this point of time about when will we open, international aviation as it was open till March 2020. And in the meanwhile, what we have is all these air bubble flights, and we have these Vande Bharat flights, which are continuing to bring back Indians from across the world. But there's no timeline on when normalcy will return, which I find a little funny because every month we go over a extension over 1 month, while some of the other countries like Australia have already said that please don't expect to fly internationally till 2022. Coming to how the world looks at us, the world was keen to get back to tourism, like you saw. Uh, Many countries opened up to India with these air bubble flights. Unfortunately, we got the second wave, and we are now totally blocked out from the world. Apart from Russia and maybe a couple of other countries here or there, which still want to take in Indian tourists. So I think this time the gestation period of people deciding to open up to India will be a little longer, and specifically certain countries, I guess, like the US and perhaps the EU, because they're still kind of dealing with their own COVID um, spikes that keep happening. So generally, I think you should be able to get out to a nearby country maybe in the next 3 to 4 months if things are okay. And if you want to fly intercontinental, I believe give it maybe 6 to 8 months at the minimum.
Ajay, neither of us are epidemiologists or virologists, and we don't know the virus. But of course, many countries are going to mandate that you get both jabs. However, the vaccination program is not running very quickly in many countries also. I mean, not that we criticize the way the vaccination program has been running in India. It's not doing all that much better in Southeast Asia or, for that matter, even in certain European countries. And should even frequent flyers be wary of traveling abroad?
I think, see, we're not going to be kept contained for extended period of time. So I think a limited opening will happen at some point of time. Vaccination, like we both perhaps seen the numbers somewhere or the other. I guess vaccinating the entire world or sizable part of the world is a 2 3 year long project. It's not something that will happen overnight. So I believe that many countries will again restart admitting people on the back of RT-PCR negative tests, or sometimes quarantine requirements and so on. Do we should we risk it getting out there or not? I guess that's a personal call. For example, Indians were very happy. Maldives has been in our backyard all this while, but Indians never cared much about Maldives because it was expensive. And now Maldives was going at throwaway prices, and all Indians who wanted to travel were happy even just going to Maldives at this point of time. So I guess, it will be a personal choice, and it will also depend on opening up. But here's the thing, taking the discussion a little on a different direction. I think when we had this 6 month respite or 5 month respite, I did some traveling around India, and I thought that it was also a great place to kind of spend your time. And my personal lookout was, listen, I don't want to be in a place where I'm going to get stuck if something happens. and hence let's just stay indoor inside the country at least um, till we know more about how things will begin to open up in a more formal manner, not in these whole air bubble schedules and so on and so forth.
You mentioned a very right point. We live in a very beautiful and very large country. There's lots of India for all of us to explore, and but even domestic travel in this second wave has been far down. You're hearing story of flights with 10, 15 passengers. I mean, Airbus A320 is going with 10, 15 passengers because the demand has collapsed. And you're rightly saying between, I think, would say November and mid March, before the second wave really hit us, people were traveling extensively, and the drop off has been huge. Um, this second wave seems to have hit the industry also very, very hard.
Yeah, I mean, just to get some perspective on the numbers, Prashant, uh, we started, uh, I think, 1 year and 1 day ago, we started domestic aviation again. I was looking at some numbers, and I think we had 532 departures that day. We went to a high of maybe 2,200 domestic flights operating in, I think, February or March sometime. And now
Hmm.
we are back to about 700 flights at this point of time across the country, which, mind you, pre pandemic, we used to do more than 2,500, 3,000 flights a day. So, yeah, things are bad. And unfortunately for the industry and people who work in the aviation industry, they've lost some colleagues because these people were not treated as frontline workers and so on. So, having said that, the financial distress is very big at this point of time. But I think there is also a huge demand that is coming up. So travel, I guess, fell not just because of the second wave and people starting to fall sick. I think travel also started to fall because of these, obviously the lockdowns that ensued, but also because of all these RT-PCR negative requirements that states have imposed. So state, I think more than anything else, it's this requirement for testing that has taken a toll on the industry. And I guess once things ease up, uh, demand's going to come back as quickly as it went. This is something I'm seeing in other parts of the world, and hence my statement. I think you know leisure travel will be the first to come back again because people want to visit other people, and airlines will do the thing by keeping fares low to be able to fill up their planes. I guess it'll be followed by SME travel, where people can't really do business without some sort of facial interaction at some point of time. And eventually, I would imagine maybe, hopefully, early next year or mid next year, we'll start to see corporate travel coming back, assuming things are normalized from here on and we don't see, more major spikes in terms of what people call the third wave, if it hits
Yeah.
us or not.
Stay safe, stay careful. Until you are vaccinated, please get a vaccine slot. Please get vaccinated. You've had your vaccine, Ajay?
Yes, indeed. Me and the wife both have been vaccinated. I think one of the perks for people who would be seeing this video perhaps is also that some states are now, and obviously countries around the world, are going to have this policy where you need to be fully vaccinated, and then that you won't need to serve a quarantine, or you won't need to be carrying negative RT-PCR reports anymore, so on and so forth. So hopefully in the
Yeah.
next 18 days, I can get my freedom to fly freely again.
But
It
there's
is
a question over there as well. I mean, I was lucky enough to get the Covishield vaccine, the first jab. But the other two vaccines that are presently available in India, Bharat Biotech Covaxin and the Russian Sputnik 5 vaccine, have both yet to get emergency use licenses from the World Health Organization.
Hmm.
The United States, in particular, has said that they don't care which vaccine you get as long as it has WHO approval, and I'm sure many other countries will have the same requirement. Might that become an issue going forward for international travel? I mean, I plead with everybody: don't choose a vaccine because you want to travel abroad. Get any vaccine, and Covaxin has been shown to work. But could that become a problem for anybody wanting to travel abroad?
So, this is something I've been planning to uh, do a deep dive on for a very long time. Somehow never got around to it. Yeah, I think this is going to be a short-term issue. It's not going to be a long-term issue. I think all the vaccines eventually will get on all those
Okay.
authorizations. So it's a matter of time. For instance, I heard a lot of chatter and read a lot about how Covaxin shouldn't be a vaccine, go-to vaccine if you wanted to travel abroad. But I think Indian borders are not open at this point of time, so
Hmm.
I'm guessing in the next 2, 3, 4. I would imagine if they did a fast track process, which the WHO is doing for everyone, and they gave everything that WHO needed, maybe in the next 3, 4 months you will have approval. The people who have to travel, let's say to the US, students who have to kind of join school there and so on. I think there's certain requirements that universities are imposing about the positive list of vaccines they'll accept. But otherwise, over a long run, I would imagine all vaccines will be accepted across the world. And this, I think, will, come through the concept of what everyone's been talking about, the vaccine passports.
I don't think, I mean, wherever people are still being allowed to enter, students in the US or Indians even still going to London where they have to quarantine for 14 days because India is on the red list. A vaccination, I don't think, is a requirement as yet, but they have to be quarantined. Like in the UK, I think it's 14 days for any traveler to go to the UK and quarantine by as a red list country. Is that correct?
Yeah, so UK at this point of time is allowing people in, and like you rightly said, there is a quarantine, and then you're tested at various points of time before you're cleared out to kind of get in. But I think over a period of time, this requirement will obviously be made mandatory. I guess a lot of countries have said they might not make it permanent condition. But from what we are seeing at this point of time, I would imagine for the next 1 year, perhaps international borders would open up only to people who um, perhaps over a period of time will have this fully vaccinated status, because the world is trying to also evolve. I think everything's up in the air right now. So EU's made announcements that uh, fully vaccinated travelers will be allowed into the 27 or 28 country block that it is. And time, I think the motivation would be that if you're fully vaccinated, you can fly at will, no questions asked. And
Just want for other viewers to know, being vaccinated has been a requirement to travel to certain countries for a while. About a decade ago, I had traveled to Africa for which I needed to have a yellow fever shot, and you carry a slip of paper to enter certain countries in Africa that you have to show that you have had the yellow fever shot. Right now, I think since we live in a digital age, I think it won't be long before I guess our next passport booklet will even probably have vaccination status marked on that. Um, you said in a answer to an earlier question, and I won't keep this on for much longer, that you expected corporate travel to pick up again maybe 2022, mid 2022 or later. But like what we are doing right now with Zoom, do you think we can go back to the golden age of corporate travel? And I mean, it was the golden age of corporate travel before the pandemic. Like it was back, say, in 2019. We'll come back to that degree, do you think? Or do you think many of us now used to doing video conferencing or non-physical meetings? Will say, I don't want to travel.
I think, personally, it's a personal thing, and I think there'll be three parties involved in this decision, right? One is your company, enterprise, whatever, who will have the business and the policy setters. The second will be you as a person. Do you feel safe to travel? And the third will be, I guess, the travel service provider, because they will have to perhaps hold themselves to a higher standard, at least for the foreseeable future. So I think if all the three boxes check yes, then obviously we're looking at business travel coming up pretty quickly. But if uh, it's anything to go by, the past, let's say 1 year is anything to go by, I think it will come back because I was seeing more and more, I think, in the period December to March, where a lot of small businesses had started to travel again. And I would imagine if the small businesses are traveling, that's just a lick in the wind to show you that the big businesses will also come back sooner than later. I'm guessing there will be more. I would imagine travel biosecurity protocols would evolve to the extent companies can afford them. But yeah, I imagine. I don't think that the world will be a Zoom or a Teams or whatever rocks your boat kind of a thing for long, and it's a matter of habit. So yeah, eventually it'll come back, and when it comes back, I think corporate travel will come stronger. I would like to believe, so far from what I see, in the premium cabin. Yeah,
So, last question, Ajay. Have you booked your next flight?
I haven't at this point of time. At this point of time, I just don't know. For the time being, very happy being home. But let's see when required. Obviously, I've never shied away from flying. So let's see. Whenever I need to go somewhere, I'll be happily jumping on a plane. Let's see. I don't have a timeline yet, though.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Ajay. Thanks so much for your